Hey everyone, welcome. I forgot to say it, and we're off. It is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, the day before the Miami Dolphins take on the Buffalo Bills um, at Highmark Stadium in the Thursday night game. We're going to do a little brief episode after doing a doubleheader on Tuesday. And if you haven't already checked them out, the episodes are misnumbered. I don't know what was going on with me. I didn't have my calculator, my notepad, whatever. But there's an episode with Dave Hyde and an episode with Sal Capaccio, Bill's sideline reporter for WGR 550 in Buffalo, for the weekly Behind Enemy Line segment. I would encourage you all to check it out. As you're checking this one out, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Check out the written content at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. The Dolphins conducted a walkthrough on Wednesday with the customary pretty much practice schedule for a week of the Thursday night game, which is no practice Monday, regular light practice Tuesday, walkthrough Wednesday, and then the game on Thursday night. Obviously, it's a big game for the Dolphins, who will go in as about a 12-point underdog in that particular game. And I have a story up on Miami Dolphins on SI.com looking at the Dolphins' history of being underdogs under Mike McDaniel. This is season 4 for him. This will be the 23rd time the Dolphins have been underdogs. It is not the biggest point spread involved in a game where the Dolphins are underdog. That happened at Buffalo in the playoffs at the end of the 2022 season when the quarterback was Skylar Thompson, and the Dolphins had the ball near midfield, down 3 at the end of the game with a chance to pull off a massive upset, wound up losing 34-31. And ironically, or maybe not ironically, maybe it makes sense, the other two biggest point spreads were in the games where the Dolphins were underdogs during the Mike McDaniel era, also against Buffalo. One of them was last year. As a matter of fact, again, Dolphins played well, could have won, lost 30-27. And then the other one was the Saturday night game in December of 2022. Dolphins again played well, again had a chance to win, lost 32-29. So, not saying the Dolphins are going to win. I'm not saying they're going to even make it competitive. I am going to say, and I'm getting like back and forth and some pushback either on social media or in the comments here, that you'll have to forgive me if I don't automatically assume it's a 25-point loss for the Dolphins in this game. While again, not saying they're going to win, but again, just this history has shown the Dolphins will be competitive based on precedent. These are different circumstances. I understand. I get it. But I don't get the idea. There are no foregone conclusions in the NFL. Things can certainly look bleak, which absolutely is the case for the Dolphins, who, I mean, are getting criticized all over the place. I mean, you name it. National columnists saw 2 of them on Wednesday. One of them was directed at the Dolphins, the organization, and it was rough. And the other one from The Athletic, from Mike Silvers, a guy who's known Mike McDaniel for a very long time, was directed more so at Mike McDaniel than the team. And it was kind of stating the facts as they are, that it's the crossroads time for the Dolphins. They're 0-2. They were flat out not competitive, embarrassed in week 1 at Indianapolis, and in week 2 had spurts where they played very, very well, except the operation for the offense down in the fourth quarter on 2 drives where they needed a score was, I'd say downright embarrassing. Actually, it was almost like high schoolish level, and that can't happen to any NFL team, let alone in year 4 with a coaching staff. So obviously, Dolphins have had a lot to clean up. Defense has not been good. I wrote about that on Miami Dolphins on SI.com as well. Check it out. But let's get to it. The news of the day on a Wednesday before Thursday game, obviously, is going to be the injury report. The final injury report, the Dolphins have ruled out 3 players for the game. 2 of them had to be expected based on the estimation in the earlier practice reports, the estimation on Monday, because Dolphins in practice. So they had basically, if we had practiced today, this is what it likely would have looked like. That's what the NFL requires of teams. And immediately when the Dolphins had a DNP for Storm Duck and for Ife Melifonwu, that kind of told you they weren't playing. And trust me, I get it. I can hear it coming from a mile away. Oh, here we go. Shocker. Ifeami Melifonwu going to miss a game because of injuries. Yep. That was the book on him during his time with the Detroit Lions when the Dolphins signed him to be one of their safeties, actually become the starting safety. There's ability there. There have been a lot of injury problems throughout his career. And yep, here we go again. The third player who has been ruled out, I know this is going to come as a great shock. I'm hoping you're sitting down and bracing yourself. Yep, it's tight end Darren Waller, who was estimated on Wednesday. Again, Wednesday's a walkthrough. That's still an estimation to put out an injury report. Estimated as limited. It was listed as limited all week. Will not practice again because of that mysterious, lingering, troublesome hip injury. And yep, it's going to raise even more questions as if there weren't enough already. Why in the hell did the Dolphins, A, make the trade for him with the New York Giants to bring him out of retirement, and B, not better prepare for a plan B in case the current situation we're dealing with materialized? So Dolphins don't play after this game. They don't play for another, 12 days, because their next game is in week 4 is the Monday night game against the New York Jets. I'd have to think he'd be ready by then. And if he's not, then what are we doing here? But at some point, this is going to come to a head. Remember the Mike McDaniel comments before the game against, was it New England last week, where he said they make him a point where the Dolphins decide it's too great a risk of something happening during the season, and we may have to do what's in the best interests of the team. Well, what should have been the best interest of the team a while back probably would have been, again, better prepare for the eventuality that you wouldn't get anything out of Darren Waller. Because right now the Dolphins still have only 2 tight ends on the active roster, those 2 being Julian Hill and Tanner Connor. And if you follow me on social media, which I hope you do, the X handle, Twitter, is @Poupar. You see my last name, NFL. And I had this nugget, was it yesterday or Monday? Not sure. The Dolphins have gotten 2 receptions out of their tight ends in the first 2 games, both by Tanner Connor. It's the lowest number for Dolphin tight ends through 2 games since 2018, which was Mike Gesicki's rookie season. And that year he had 1 catch after 2 games. And the Dolphins also had 1 catch from AJ Derby. That's it. And this is a unit who reminds you, again, I think last year, as I've kind of suggested, maybe the Dolphins over-relied on Jonnu Smith, who, by the way, has 9 catches, 42 yards in 2 games with Pittsburgh this year. It's not exactly dynamic production. But if they over-relied on the tight ends last year because there was so much checking down, well, they're kind of going overboard the other way so far in 2025. And we're back to 2023 levels. If you remember, there was 0 touchdowns from that position the entire season. So there may be a third tight end on the way for the game against Buffalo, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. Let me continue with the injury report. 3 players were listed as questionable, all estimated to be limited after the walkthrough on Wednesday. Those 3 are Benito Jones with his oblique injury, which caused him to miss the week 2 game against the against the New England Patriots. The other 2 players are Chop Robinson, who's dealing with a knee injury after that nasty chop block by Morgan Moses, the veteran right tackle of the Patriots, and then Jalen Waddle. And Jalen Waddle's an interesting case because he was driven into the turf, if you recall, in the opener against the Colts, kind of got off the field, kind of the shoulder hanging down a little bit, went back into the game, was listed on the injury report for the first couple of days. I think it was last Thursday for the New England game. Then was off the injury report, full participant, no game status designation for the game against the Patriots. Didn't see anything that looked worrisome. First injury report of this week, again, based on an estimation, but the Dolphins don't have Jalen Waddle even on the injury report. And then boom, he pops up on Tuesday, which was the actual practice, listed as limited. Now, this is where I can't even tell you for sure, because we haven't spoken to Mike McDaniel since before practice Tuesday, but can't tell you for sure whether it's the same injury that now maybe there's something tweaked or something, or it's another injury that occurred in practice on Tuesday. Don't know. But he is listed as questionable. Obviously, Dolphins need him. Pardon me, they need everybody they can have in the lineup if they're going to pull off that upset against the mighty Buffalo Bills on Thursday night. With Chop Robinson, the Dolphins do have a lot of depth at edge defender position. If he can't go, that means more snaps for Matthew Judon, who played like only 20 snaps when he needs to come in and when they want to give Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips a rest. Benito Jones didn't play last week, as we mentioned. Zeke Biggers took his spot on the game day roster, even though he didn't get a whole lot of playing time. It was Jordan Phillips who actually took over for him as the main nose tackle, wound up starting the game between Kenneth Grant and Zach Sealer. If Waddle can't go, Malik Washington obviously plays a bigger role as a wide receiver. Nick Westbrook-Akine maybe gets to start outside. There are options there as well, but nobody's Jalen Waddle other than Tyreek Hill in terms of the speed and the damage he can do with his dynamic playmaking ability. So we'll see on those. The good news, there is some good news. There are 4 players who were on the injury report who were estimated as full participants and did not get a game status designation, which basically means they will be available to play if the Dolphins want to use them. And first and foremost, I would say, is Aaron Brewer, the starting center, who had been dealing with a hip injury or still dealing with a hip injury, but he's going to play. Obviously, the last thing the Dolphins would have needed is to have a third starting offensive lineman out of the lineup since they're already without James Daniels and Austin Jackson, with Keon Smith and Larry Borum again expected to start in their place. And then we have 2 players ready to make their 2025 season debut, including running back Jalen Wright, the other one being cornerback Ethan Bonner. Now, where Ethan Bonner is going to fit in the pecking order at cornerback, not sure. I am of the belief that there possibly could be a change in terms of the nickel position. Would not be surprised one bit if Cornell Armstrong wound up getting those responsibilities against the Bills as opposed to Jason Marshall Jr., who has had some good plays, also had some spotty plays as well, had the illegal contact penalty against the Patriots on Sunday, which helped them convert, I believe it was at that time, 2nd and 20 or something along those lines. So don't be surprised if that happens. And then the other player who did not get a game status designation despite being on the injury report, that was Malik Washington, who had been dealing with a thumb issue. So with Jalen Wright being, this is where the third tight end is going to come in. With Jalen Wright being available to play, Dolphins now are going to have three running backs from their 53 available to play. Obviously, Devon Achane, Ollie Gordon too, and Jalen Wright, which means the Dolphins very well might not be elevating Jeff Wilson Jr. for a third consecutive game, which would be his final game, by the way. If as a reminder, players are allowed to be elevated 3 times during the regular season. After that, they have to be signed to the 53 and able to participate in a game. So obviously, Riley Patterson is going to be elevated. That's the kicker. That's going to be game number 3 for him. After that, the Dolphins are going to have to decide, do we sign him to the 53? And that obviously entails creating a roster spot. Or do we sign a different veteran kicker to the practice squad and elevate him 3 times and do what they did with the long snappers last year after they placed Blake Ferguson on NFI? Special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman was asked about the decision-making process with that situation, prefaced it by saying they've been very happy with what Riley Patterson has done, both in kicking off and no, the kickoff return was not on him. The kickoff return for the touchdown was not on him. He's made his only field goal attempt. Trying to think how many he had. I think he had 2 and made both of them. So happy with him, but is it worth using a roster spot on? Considering he's not going to be on the roster once Jason Sanders returns from his injury, and there'll come a point probably next week where we'll be asking, okay, where's Jason Sanders health-wise, and should he be ready to return once the 4-game minimum of his IR stay expires? So, and since I already brought it up, that kickoff return for a touchdown got Antonio Gibson of the Patriots the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week honor. And I'm here to tell you that had the Dolphins been able to pull off the comeback at the end and won the game, that honor would have gone to Malik Washington for his punt return for a touchdown. Because as a general rule, unless you accomplish something historic, they will not give those awards to a player from a losing team. So, and Malik Washington's punt return was every bit as impressive, if not more, as Antonio Gibson's kickoff return for a touchdown. So, the Bills, meanwhile, on their injury report, 2 players are out, and it's not surprising, and they're 2 big names, and they're 2 key players for their defense. It's their best defensive lineman, Ed Oliver, and it's their best linebacker, Matt Milano. Milano has a pectoral injury. Ed Oliver has an ankle injury after somebody stepped on his foot. And if you want the lowdown on the ramifications of those injuries and those absences, this is where I encourage you. Please check out the Behind Enemy Lines Bills Edition podcast I did with Sal Capaccio, which was very, very enlightening, informative. I'd like to think it was entertaining as well. You guys check it out. Let me know what you think. But this is where he can dive in depth as to what that means. And the takeaway theme, though, from Sal in terms of those injuries is the Bills have built themselves a very, very deep team where they can absorb that kind of setback, no matter how good a player Ed Oliver was. And he was dynamic in that game against the Ravens in week 1, even though overall the Bills defense was not good because the Ravens ran all over them. The Bills have 3 players listed as questionable. Cornerback Teron Johnson, that's their nickel corner, who's one of the best in the NFL. His backup, that's Cam Lewis, is also questionable. And then there's linebacker Shaq Thompson, the former first-round pick of the Carolina Panthers, who is questionable with hamstring hand injuries. We'll see where that comes out. I think I saw some kind of clip from Teron Johnson saying, no, he was good. He's fine. No issues there. That he will play. He's an important player for them as a very, very good nickel corner. So that takes care of the injury report. I did want to touch as well on, it was almost to the point of wanting to write something on the website. I figured, let me address it here on the podcast. And is this criticism of the comments that Tua made regarding Josh Allen during his weekly press conference on Tuesday. And if you've known me long enough, followed me on social media, on the podcast, it's not like I'm shy about criticizing Tua. He made some comments last year that I did not like in the least. I didn't like his show me the money to the fans before practice after he got his contract extension. I didn't like his "get the ball out, brother" comment when he was asked about the offensive line. I didn't like his he mishandled the shotgun snap against Arizona in his first game back, and he's talking about like it's easy to criticize when you're sitting on your couch eating potato chips. I wasn't a big fan of that, and there have been a couple as well. So that's my preface to saying, what is the big deal about what he said about Josh Allen? Like, he complimented the dude, and I'm going to read the quote, and after I'm done, I'm going to ask everybody here to stop for a second and tell me what he said, A, that was so egregious, and B, that wasn't obvious to anybody who's ever watched football. So the question was, what do you think of Josh Allen's skill set? The quote is, dude, he's top tier. If it's not with his arm, it's with his legs. That dude can do literally anything he wants. Definitely different skill set for me. I can't do half of what he does when it comes to running the ball and any of that. And then with how he can just chuck a ball down the field with how far and the arm strength that he has, he's supreme when it comes to that. It's going to be fun to get to see him, get to play him again, and we'll see. Okay. What in that entire statement, comment, is there anything that's not completely obvious to anybody who's ever watched football? So what's the big deal? That he praised an opposing quarterback, a peer, to that degree? The dude's been in the MVP top 3, I think, like 4 times already in his career. Was MVP last year. I don't get it. And Do we? Is it like a state secret that Josh Allen has a different skill set than Tua? Uh, Duh. Tua has certain strengths that are probably better than Josh Allen. More consistently accurate than Josh Allen is. He's not the athlete Josh Allen is. I mean, come on, duh. But he's gotten roasted throughout national media, and I don't get it. I don't get it. This is like, and I don't know if it's because it's open season on the Dolphins and it's like time to criticize everything and everybody about no matter what. But to me, it was like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And again, at a time when there's enough to criticize, if you want to take shots at Tua, yeah, go for it. But criticize his play, criticize the failure to see Julian Hill after he was scrambling on the first fourth down against the Patriots. There was another overhead shot when he ran out of bounds on 3rd and 12. On the last drive, it was, I think that's what the yardage, the down and distance were, where the overhead shot showed as he was running toward the sideline. If he'd been looking down the field, he might have spotted Tanner Connor, where he had a nice lane to throw on the ball. You want to criticize that, fine. But that particular comment, no. But then again, like I said, it's open season on the Dolphins. A couple of national writers, painting a less than flattering picture, but that's what's going to happen when you're 0-2 and you haven't looked good. Are they the worst 0-2 team in the NFL? I think the perception especially from a lot of Dolphin fans, are absolutely without question, yeah, but that also deals with the fact that this is a team that's not been that bad over the last couple of years. In fact, I mean, they were at 9 last year, and then they made the playoffs in 2023 and in 2022. So the drop so far has been dramatic, but I think they're still better than the New Orleans Saints, for example. That'd be one team among the 0-2 teams, and even the Tennessee Titans also don't look like a very good 0-2 team. So, but this is what it is. It's very reactionary. Dolphins have not looked good, so there will be criticism all over the place. Dolphins certainly could do something about it by pulling off the upset on Thursday night, which obviously will not be easy. Speaking of that, the plan is to do, because it's a Thursday night game, which, by the way, I know some fans like primetime games. Personally, from a scheduling standpoint, do not like it, but I know that's a me problem. I get it. But because of the new schedule, I'll be back here tomorrow with Chris Perkins. We'll talk about the game as a final preview, and then we'll see when we're going to do our post-game recap. I don't know if it's going to be live because, again, it's going to be way past my bedtime by the time the game ends. So we'll see how it goes. In any event, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Please check out the website, MiamiDolphins on SI.com. And until we meet again, thanks, everyone.